Concludes the prepared speeches portion of the meeting. We're now going to move into table topics. And to lead us through that is our table topics master. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Martin Galecki.
Brian, were you really able to dunk?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's one of my dreams.
I was like 20 pounds lighter.
Wow,
Better ankles.
that's awesome. All right, so we are going to be doing table topics right now. So just a brief introduction for our guests. What this portion, as MaryJane alluded to, what this portion of the meeting is about is the impromptu speaking part. And what we'll have is I will ask a question or give you some sort of prompt. And the speakers will have 1 to 2 minutes to respond to that prompt. And you want to at least get to the 1 minute mark. Hopefully you get to the 1.3 minute mark or 1.5 minute mark. Or right up to the 2 minute mark where you'll have 30 more seconds to wrap it up if you really feel like you need to go all the way. So with that, could I please have our timer show the timing for the table topics portion, please, Crispin?
For table topics, each speaker will have 1 to 2 minutes to respond. I will show green at 1 minute, yellow at 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, and red at 2 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. So first, a relatively easy question on the topic of today, which is crowds. Melissa, do you feel more comfortable alone or in a crowd?
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Do I feel more comfortable in a crowd or alone? Definitely in a crowd. I love being around tons of different people and meeting new people, and just like when all I can think about is like jumping to this new LASN sports league I just started, and it's flag football, and it's every weekend, and we go to the bar after, and we'll just be sitting there, and because everybody doesn't know each other, we just all played a sport together, so your adrenaline's up and you're relaxing, so you just kind of come up and create that like casual conversation. It's just like, that's just what I really enjoy saying, like, but when I'm at home like alone, I'd say it's not as bad. I do love my TV shows. I think I have like 25 that I consistently watch. So my Saturdays and Sundays are definitely homework with all my different TV shows in the background. Game of Thrones on repeat, right? So I can catch all the little details that I've missed. But yeah, so to answer your question, Martin, I feel more comfortable in a crowd.
All right, thank you. Crowd surfing is also one of my big dreams and also one of my big fears. Would you allow yourself to be carried away by a crowd of people at some kind of concert or big event? Molly?
Music questions.
Funny story, Martin. I was crowd surfing at Coachella 2017. Lady Gaga, she came on, she started playing The Cure, and I was lifted up by angels. It was like I was flying, and I was on this crowd. I went all the way from left stage to right stage, and then I fell. It dropped me. It was terrible. Couldn't find any of my friends. I'm agoraphobic, so being in the front of the crowd at Coachella was terrible. And I got a really bad bruise on my butt because I fell out of everyone's hands. But to conclude, it was a great experience. I would recommend crowd surfing to anybody.
See, agoraphobia just pushes you to your limits, doesn't it? All right, Saima, I'm going to ask you a question if you're up for it. Looks like you're up for it. Cities have been associated as being crowded places to live. Would you prefer to live in a bustling city or a sleepy town?
Ooh.
Yep.
Let's see, as far as myself being able to live in a bustling city, I feel like I'm definitely able to. I feel like I prefer to live in a bustling city over a sleepy town because I like to go out. I do like crowds. I'm not agoraphobic. I do enjoy company of others, but I also enjoy being alone. So I feel like if I did have to stay in a sleepy town, I could for a small period of time, but preference-wise, I think I'd prefer to be in a bustling, bustling city? Yeah, bustling city.
Alrighty. Most associations with the word crowds are negative. Something that's noisy, chaotic, and stifling. What is a situation where a crowd can actually be a good thing? Crispin?
Thank you. A crowd can be a great thing during a sporting event. You know, during sports events, there's no agoraphobia happening among the football players, basketball players, baseball players, any of the players that may exist. It would be preferably nice to have a big crowd. But this Sunday, when my Falcons play at a new stadium, the Falcons will be a reoccurring thing. So I'll get ready for next week. It helps the team to feel like their fans are supportive and they go through and, you know, make accomplishments in winning the games, scoring all the touchdowns, winning the Super Bowl they should have won the year before. But you get to the point to which, you know, you need the crowds so that you feel good when things are going wrong, things are going right. When you miss the dunks, you know, you make the dunks, hit the home runs. So crowds will be good in a sporting setting, a music setting. If you're a performer, you want to know that people are feeling your music, they're excited about your performance. And that's basically when you need crowds.
Awesome. There's an old saying, 2 is company, but 3's a crowd. I often find myself being the 3rd or the 5th wheel in a group setting. Do you ever feel this way? And if you do, what do you and what should I do in this situation? Gloria.
Yeah, I was really trying to avoid your eye contact there. Do I feel like a 3rd or 5th wheel? Yes, I do. I have a built-in 3rd wheel due to being a mom. My husband and I would love to have some alone time, date nights, but we've got a constant 3rd wheel, and her name is Kaya. She's 16 months old. And, you know, you just have to learn to embrace it. So Kaya goes to everything. We are not the parents that stay home and don't have a social life. Kaya's been to Mexico. She's been to San Francisco, Sacramento. She's been to the Hollywood Bowl. I've not even been there yet. She parties. But that would be a really good example of when it's okay to be a 3rd wheel. I don't think my family will get big enough to be having the built-in fifth wheels or anything like that, but in our experience, we've just learned to embrace it and go with the flow.
So your advice to me is just to embrace it and go with the flow.
Yeah.
Oh, have a kid.
That's what I heard.
All right. Adoption, great, okay. Didn't think that was going to be the advice you get today. Mob mentality is an unfortunate tendency of acquiescing to a popular opinion because of fear of being singled out as different in a crowd. What is a situation where you stood up to popular opinion and went against the crowd? MaryJane.
Oh, come on. Thanks, Mr. Table Topics Master.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Let me tell you about when it's okay to be in a crowd. Because that's the question I wanted. And I don't know. Actually, I'll go back to your question. I'll answer your question. I think growing up, I always wanted to fit in. So it was very easy to conform and to do what you were supposed to do. And wear what other people wore. And buy the Skechers that everyone was buying because Skechers, believe it or not, were in back then. And I think when I was growing up, I noticed a lot of people around me would say a lot of bad words. And there was like an F word here. This was 6th grade, by the way. So imagine all these little 11-year-olds going, F this, F that, blah, 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 blah. Every other word was an F word. So of course, to speak their language, I threw in my own F's and B's and C's and the whole alphabet. And I thought I was so cool. And then one day, we had a public speaker come and talk about how to be presentable. And in 6th grade, that was really interesting because they were talking about making eye contact, holding people's attention. It was a mini Toastmasters in 6th grade now that I think about it, but most importantly, it was choosing your words wisely and how you want to be perceived. And from that day, I was a very enlightened 11-year-old. I decided to omit profanity from my vocabulary. And from then on, I think people took me a lot more seriously, to the point where I don't think those bad words are said in my presence, and I've stood up for myself in that way. And so by presenting that and projecting that out, I broke away from the mold, and it allowed me to grow up a little bit faster, but it allowed me to take myself more seriously. I encourage you all, if there's something that you feel is right, don't be afraid to be different. Mr. Toastmaster. I wanted to answer something else.
Don't we all? Crowdsourcing is a method of finding out an answer or solution to something by asking a large group of people and completely ignoring your intuition, just going with whatever the most common answer is. Sarah, do you think crowdsourcing is useful?
Will you please repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Do you know what crowdsourcing is?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Crowdsourcing is a method of finding an answer or solution to something by asking a large group of people and going with their answer.
Okay.
Do you think crowdsourcing is useful?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. What a great question. Yeah, the clock starts now. I personally, when I have a problem in my mind that I can't seem to resolve, I crowdsource. I go to about 2 to 3 people that I trust with my personal details of my life, and I'm like, this is what I'm going through. This is really bothering me. Here's the situation. What do you think? And generally, I find that once I put the problem out there in the universe and hear it and hear other people kind of dissect it, then I'll come to my conclusion and usually know that I had the answer all along. So I definitely think it's like great to have a soundboard, people that you trust to be, I'm thinking of doing this, this is what's going on, what do you think? And to have that support system, at least when it comes to difficult decisions. When it comes to other things, maybe it's best to just trust your gut, but I like crowdsourcing. I like my soundboard.
All right. Thank you. That was a good answer. I thought I was going to trap you in front of your boss to say that, yeah, when my boss gives me a new assignment, I just give it to 2 other people. Saima told you to do this. All right, I think we have time for one more. Far from the madding crowd, if you've ever heard that phrase, is a phrase, but it's also a book that refers to a peaceful or calm place. But the book was a terrible, terrible book that I had to read in 11th grade. And I constantly remember that I don't remember anything about it. What are some terrible books that you do or don't remember reading when you were in school, maybe high school, middle school, or elementary school? And do you think that now that you're older and wiser, are any of these actually worth reading? Doug.
Fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests, books. I seem to pull out an occasional book question, isn't that so? and I'm not afraid of books. You know, I spend actually quite a bit of time revisiting old books. But the idea of revisiting something that I glossed over when I was immature and in a hurry to get back to the game, interesting thought. I don't know, I'm going to have to chew on that one because, you know, there were some classics that we read. One came to mind, Catcher in the Rye. I'm sure there's something in there that I didn't notice because I was on fast forward mode. There's two ways of reading. My way is where you read a stanza, whatever that is, and then you close the book and you think, what did the person say? What did they not say? What does this remind me of? What can I conclude from this? I ran into one recently. Somebody was talking very casually and light, and it was captured because a stenographer was writing it down, and it was just, so much of it was just complete abstract thinking in the flow. But I was able to look at it and go, there's something here, there's something here, there's something here. I spent about an hour with it and pulled out a question of conviction. You know, there's conviction when you say, I'm a Northrop Grumman employee. And then there's a conviction of having to stand up and tell people, I'm a Northrop Grumman employee, and having it mean something. So whether we embrace conviction or whether it's thrown upon us, there's a difference. Because, you know, how often have we heard somebody say something and it's like, it didn't have any conviction. You know that person just is giving you service, as opposed to what we learn here is to speak with intention, especially about the things that we're passionate about. Mr. Tabletop.
All right.